Welcome everyone that is on. We're excited to have you. We'll be starting momentarily.
Thank you.
Come on, Pearls.
It is now 5:30, everyone. We are going to give it another minute or two as the participants are all joining us via Zoom and Facebook Live. So welcome, and we will get started in a second. All right, about 30 more seconds, and we are going to kick this thing off. So get excited. We have amazing panelists with us this evening. All right, so we are about to get started. Welcome once again to the When We Vote Forum, brought to you by the Rho Zeta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and the Cobb County Alphas. So we welcome you, and we are so excited to really talk about how do we mobilize our community and get out the vote during this election season. And my name is Nichelle Davis, a proud member of the Rho Zeta Omega chapter, and I will be co-moderating with Cameron Williams.
Hello, everybody. So good to have everyone in the forum. Can't wait to get started. Let's go ahead and kick it off.
All right, so now you're going to hear some information about the upcoming election from Cameron. He'll just give you a few dates, some pointers as we really get into our panel discussion. But of course, we want you to be equipped with the information you need so that you can definitely go out, be prepared, make your voter plan, and hit those polls. However you do it, drop the ballot off at a drop box, do what you got to do, but make sure your voice is heard during this election.
Absolutely. Nichelle is absolutely correct. As you all are aware and you've heard in the news, lines have been long and things are just a little unpredictable. So making a plan is the biggest thing. So early voting already started October 12th, if you did not know. So you have the ability to vote. So the biggest thing now is find out where you vote, Whether if you want to do it in person, early voting, or mail-in ballots. If you're going to do mail-in ballots, now is the time to do it. We are actually going to be sharing some resources with you throughout the evening. So we encourage you to stick around, because at the conclusion of this panel discussion, we are going to be doing a takeaway activity where we are going to put these resources in your hands that you can share with your circles to make sure that not only yourself and your friends and families get to the polls, but you can also empower them to share this exact same information. And it's as simple as a text. So we'll talk about that towards the end of the panel.
All right. And before we get started, I just wanted to share with you all a quick story, because I saw it on the first day of early elections from one of our chapter members, and definitely really inspired me. And I hope that you all will be inspired by the end of this program. So here it is. So first day of early voting story, y'all. Crazy. So today was a very humbling day for me, as well as tiring and challenging. My goal was to vote on the first day of early voting. I didn't expect a very long wait, but I was prepared for it. Be prepared, all right? I packed my snacks, hydration, lawn chair, and umbrella, so I was as ready as I could be. But the hours kept building and building, and after a certain point, you have to decide, are you gonna stay or are you gonna leave and just try a different day? Or see it all the way through? I decided to stick it out and see it all the way through. I was good until around 8 hours. 8 hours, y'all. So I was good until around 8 hours. Then I was starting to lose it. But then I remembered all of my ancestors who fought, bled, and died to secure my right to vote. They didn't have the luxury of comfy lawn chairs, healthy snacks, and fancy beverages to enjoy while they waited. And they endured a lot more than 10 hours of waiting in line. I couldn't disappoint them today. I just couldn't. I had to complete what I committed to doing and vote like my life depended on it, because it does. Our children's future is on the ballot. Healthcare is on the ballot. Women's rights is on the ballot. Black Lives Matter, that's on the ballot too. The list goes on, and way too much is at stake. I'm not telling you this to impress you, but to impress upon you that you have to do whatever it takes to vote. Not voting cannot be an option anymore, especially now. Please, whatever you do, vote. Whatever it takes, vote. As painful as it may be, vote. No matter how long you have to wait, vote. That's from someone that waited 10 hours and 5 minutes in Cobb County on the first day of early voting. So, like she said, y'all better do what it takes to vote. But with that said, we welcome you again, and that is why we are hosting this event, so that you are knowledgeable, you are prepared to do what it takes, and also encourage others in the community to get out and vote. Once again, my name is Nichelle Davis, and we have Cameron Williams. All right. So without further ado, we are going to introduce to you all our panelists. All right. Our first panelist is Rashawn Ali. Welcome. With a passion for all things media and empowering young women, Rashawn Ali is a formidable and revered personality within the sports and entertainment industries. She believes in doing media differently. While attending Florida A&M University as a broadcast journalism major, Rashawn knew that she wanted to share her voice with the world and set out on a quest to make that happen. She became heavily involved in the entertainment scene in Atlanta. From working for LaFace Records and as a personal assistant to the late Lisa Left Eye Lopez, to co-hosting the Ryan Cameron Show on V103 FM and the Streets Morning Grind of 94.5 in 2012. She is the host of her own podcast, the Cool Soror Podcast, which explores the stories of women and men in Black Greek letter organizations. She has since expanded the brand, incorporating all cool people. Rashawn formerly served as one of 4 co-hosts on Sister Circle, a nationally syndicated talk show on TV1, which ran for 3 seasons, and you can now catch her on the 2nd season of Tyler Perry's Sisters on BET. Ali remains involved in countless charities and organizations, as she is an active member of the Pi Alpha Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And she serves on an international committee for the oldest Black Greek lettered sorority. In 2006, she founded Sporty Girls Incorporated, a nonprofit organization that encourages personal growth through participation in non-traditional sports like golf, tennis, soccer, swimming, and lacrosse. Sporty Girls Incorporated has made an indelible impact on young female athletes through her Camp Elite, Sporty Track to Scholarship, Get Girls Sporty, and Sporty Clinics programs. Sporty Girls has served more than 1,500 girls throughout the Metro Atlanta area. She also serves on the board of directors for Rising Media Stars, an organization that grooms young women to pursue careers in sports journalism. Ali is also the author of a delightful children's book entitled Piper Sky's Pink Popsicle Shoes. Ali enjoys spending time with her husband, Brian, and is the proud mother of two wonderful daughters, Bailey and Carter. For more information about Miss Rashan Ali, please visit her website at rashanali.com, or you could check her out at sportygirlsinc.org or thecoolsorer.com, coolsorer.com. So we welcome you, Rashan. Thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Soror.
Thank you so much, Rashan. And I have the distinct honor of introducing our next panelist, Miss Danielle Danny Canada. Miss Danielle Danny Canada is a journalist and editor, a TV personality with a specialty in entertainment news. She's the former assistant editor of Hip Hop Wired and the current deputy editor of Gossip. She's conducted interviews with celebrities, including Gabrielle Union, Martin Luther King Jr. III, Jada Pinkett Smith, Kelly Rowland, Don Cheadle, and more. In addition to Gossip, she has contributed to GQ Magazine, Jet Magazine, Uptown Magazine, and has been featured in the New York Times and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Danielle currently manages Gossip's editorial staff. She previously provided commentary on Gossip on WETV seasons 1 and 2, and on Sister Circle TV as part of the What's Tea with Miss Quad segment.
Yes.
on Divorce and Couples Court. So it is my pleasure to introduce Miss Danielle Danny Canada.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, my fellow Hamptonian. I appreciate that.
Ain't you in the house?
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Miss Jareen Grimes. Jareen Bonner Grimes is a resident of Marietta, Cobb County, and has been since 1971. She is a Silver Life member of the NAACP. She previously served as the second vice president for the Georgia State NAACP conference for over 3 years. She also previously served for 4 years as a Marietta City Schools Board of Education member for Ward 5. She believes that accountability, advocacy, and accessibility are vital to the success of our educational system. Ms. Bonner Grimes is also a co-owner of Allied Bonding Company in Marietta, Georgia, and is the proud mother of 4 grown adult children and grandmother of 5. Ms. Bonner Grimes was awarded Citizen of the Year by Mayor Tumlin in 2014, serves on the board of directors of LifeSave Resources, Leadership Cobb graduate in 2019, nominated for Women of the Year by the Marietta Cobb YWCA in 2013, awarded from the Secretary of State's office Citizen of the Year in 2009, and the list goes on and on and on, y'all. She's the bomb.com. And under Ms. Bonner Grimes' leadership, the Cobb County NAACP will continue to be very active in the community, politically and academically, just as her predecessor, Mrs. Dean Bonner, had achieved. Some of their accomplishments include the annual education forum, daily voter registration, hosted virtual political forums, met with city and local schools, police, and civic organizations to ensure continuous improvement in the school systems. And this Cobb County branch of the NAACP monitors the city and county school systems. We have also formed partnerships with local churches and other organizations. That's all what they did, y'all. So much that she brings to the table with us tonight. And you can look for her anywhere around Marietta. And she is ready and wanting to meet and talk to all of you. So we welcome you, Ms. Jareen. We are so excited to have you with us here tonight. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you for that great introduction. I certainly appreciate that. I'm excited about the dialogue and the conversation that we will share this evening.
Yes, most definitely. So
Absolutely.
we're here. We're about to hop right in, y'all. We have a couple questions we want to ask of you to share your insight, your expertise, both personally, professionally, in all the spaces that you occupy. And also our audience members, if you are on Facebook Live or joining us via Zoom, please start dropping your questions as they come up or come to mind, because we will have time to take audience questions after the moderated questions. So please go ahead and start, dropping those once they come to mind. But yes, without further ado, here goes our first question. So, how are you using your personal and or professional platform to encourage people to get out and vote? All right, and we will start with you, Rashawn.
Okay. I think with social media and so many people really just living their lives out on social media, I try to use that as a very personal platform, but also making sure that the people that follow me or people who follow me know where I stand when it comes to voting, when it comes to making sure that you are exercising your right to do such, and how important it is for me. So I've been moderating, it's different to be on this side of it to talk about my experience. I'm usually doing what you do, Nichelle, but to be on this side, I think we each have a responsibility, no matter if, and I've been blessed to have built a really nice platform on social media with close to 130,000 followers. And then with my Facebook, you add on to that. But, if you can get a percentage of those people to kind of understand where you stand when it comes to voting, because you just never know what people are thinking and how people are moving, and they will base what they do off of what you do. So if somebody sees and who admires me or who may follow me from all of my different walks of life and says, oh my goodness, she really is about this particular person, or she's at least about making sure that I walk out of that door and cast my vote, then I know that I'm making a difference. And I think no matter what platform you have, and I always say this when I speak to different organizations, or if I'm delivering a speech, you are an influence for someone who you may not know, whether it's in a cubicle or if it's on your platform. So whatever we can do to continue to get the word out, continue to show people the importance of how this is going to be a very life-changing election for us, not just in the presidential race, but voting down the ballot, which is what we'll get into later. But I've been using my platform by continuing to moderate things within our sorority and outside our sorority as well, because it takes each and every person to make a difference and to see the change that we want and deserve to see. So using my platform has been something that I do daily.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. So question to you, Ms. Grimes, same question. What are you doing right now, especially in Cobb County, to really get out the vote and use your platform?
The work never stops. The NAACP is the largest, the oldest, the baddest, the boldest civil rights organization, and this is a 24/7, 365 days of the year operation. As we know, this election is so important, and how we utilize our platform on a continual basis is we, as the NAACP, provide voter protection, voter registration, and voter education all year long. It doesn't just happen during President Ita, as I said, 365 days of the year, 24/7. We provide all that people need in terms of, as a nonpartisan organization, we don't care who you vote for, just that you vote. We register people all year long. So it's a continual process, as one of our major civic engagement is one of our major advocacies that we practice all year long. Every year, we continue to do the work. On a personal level, one of the things that I find very interesting is to try to create some space for voter education. Our people really need to understand, as Rashawn said previously, both the entire ballot. Educate yourself as to who is on the ballot. I can't tell you how many times people have called, they have no idea, they just, they associate a vote with a party. Educate yourself. It is vital and equally important that people know who's in our community. One of the things that we also do is we try to prepare potential candidates, get people at the table. So we continue to use our advocacy on a personal and a professional as an organization, that we don't stop. After this election is over on the 3rd, we will continue doing the work, trying to make sure people understand the importance. And it goes years and years after that date, because our future depends on it. Our children's future depends on it.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Danny, you know, you got the young voters, the young professionals that follow you. I mean, older people too, but you know your crowd. How are you really encouraging, you know, your people and your followers to get out and get some votes?
So I love what Sor Rashawn said about everyone is an influencer, because that really is the truth. One thing in my business that we focus a lot on is social media. And with that, we look at the stats, we look at reaches, we look at impressions. So with that, you could have 10 followers, but if your 10 followers share that information and then those 10 share the information, that is vital and that is key. And that is something that I have been focusing on this year with the brand that I work for, Bossip. So we are an entertainment news site, but we have a delegated person who covers the presidential election. And we make sure that when we cover that, it's something that's going to gain traction. It's something that's going to get eyes on it, because that is really key to spreading that word. We have over 530,000 followers on Instagram. We have about 300,000, I believe, on Twitter. And so we make sure we utilize our platform that way. And then even with myself personally, I just know that you can literally look, and if you go and look on your Instagram stories, there are people who see your story who don't even follow you. So that just goes into showing you how important reach and impressions are. So that's something that I'm big on, is social media for sure.
Oh, absolutely. That's fantastic. So I can certainly relate to that, Danny. So I know, as a part of my organization, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, I'm actually a part of the Omicron Mu Lambda organization. Outreach has been a huge part of our process with voter engagement. And as for instance, we're hosting phone banks, for instance, that exponential touch means the world, reaching out to those 10, and then those 10 reach their 10. So I hear you. I can definitely connect with that for sure. Well, I did have a question I want to pose to all three of you. So all of you have been in the public eye, and you're in the community. You're actively engaged, trying to get voters excited and to participate. I am sure that you have run into some discouraged individuals, those that feel that, you know, their vote doesn't matter, you know, and it's not going to make a difference. How do you address that kind of apathy, you know, that attitude that it's not really going to make a difference?
I think that we owe it. I know we hear this all the time. We owe it to our ancestors to at least walk into the building and cast your vote. I don't care if you don't like who is on the ballot. There is something that is to be said by you just exercising your right to vote. And we have to continue to show people how politics affects their daily lives. I think that we have been, for people who are not into, like, all of us are engaged. When we're talking about that person, or who may be engaged that still is apathetic about what's going on because they don't like either candidate. I'm not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Our ancestors, and even us, our parents, have had to vote for people that we are like, I really don't, but Let me just at least exercise my right to vote, to at least try to affect some type of policy change by the person or the people who I am voting for. So when we talk about showing individuals how politics affects their daily lives, Jareen alluded to it, voting down that ballot and understanding that you feel the effects on that state and local level almost immediately. So understanding about prescription medications for your parents or your grandparents, or school accessibility, and all of these things, school board members, the district attorneys, the judges, all of those things that I think that these conversations like this, to remind people of the importance of making sure that, you know, when you go in there, you're educated on who you're voting for. So if you're apathetic about because you don't like this person or that person, welcome to our world. Welcome to our world, and the world that we've been living in for quite some time, when we just have to make sure we go in there and hope and hold them accountable, which we'll get into later, hold these politicians accountable once they're in office to really execute on the things that they have promised. So again, when you talk to that individual, first of all, you're crazy. I wish I would tell you, you know, when that song that you had a praying grandmother, what would your grandmother say about you not
right now.
walking into that building? You are disappointing her and disappointing your grandfather and all of these people who were taken from our native land to come over here and build this country up, to fight for the rights that we have and continue to fight for the rights that we have. And you're not gonna vote? Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. And I'm happy for people like Shaquille O'Neal, who has just said for the first time in his life is voting. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's a shame. But at least as a Black man, he's saying, okay, guys, I've been wrong in the past, but now I'm voting for the first time. So apathy, it runs across the board, but conversations like this and recording this conversation and showing other people just the importance of walking in the building is what you owe, to the people who died for this opportunity for you to do it.
And that's powerful.
I would agree with that. I think it's our job to break it down to people and break it down into bite-sized bits that they can understand. I know a lot of people do not watch the news. It's just that people are like, the news is too negative. I don't like it. So maybe they don't know what's happening. Maybe they don't know that there's someone in office who would not denounce white supremacy. So it is literally our job to be like, oh, I don't know if you saw this. Let me bring it to you. We cannot afford to not vote in this election. Like, this is key, in my opinion, that you come out and you do your civic duty, because maybe someone missed it. Maybe someone is just, like Rashawn said, I don't like anyone. I don't want to vote. Well, here are literally all the reasons why, and I can break it down to you. So I think it's our duty to each one teach one, essentially.
Oh,
what I would
absolutely.
say to the point is, we come across quite a few people that say it's all about power. And when we talk about the power of the ballot box, each and every person that's apathetic, they need to wake up. Because when they go to, when you talk about what you're being denied or this or what you can't have, the power of the ballot box is yours.
Yes.
You control that piece of power that you need to take and utilize it. And to Rashawn's point that, people died for the right to be able to vote. Shame on you. Shame on you for not even making it a consideration. But the power that we each individually has on this earth is the power of the ballot box. And so what we do is try to encourage folks to see that's the one piece of power that you truly have. You can control a lot of things by that piece of power that you use. Local, state, national elections, your impact can be shifted. And, we talk about the battleground states that are in, there's 13 battleground states, and Black America has historically been known to be able to change what the outcome of an election can be. So if you're sitting on the sidelines talking about, oh no, nothing's gonna happen, you need to wake up and use your power.
And I just want to add, so this is something like a conversation that we always have. Like, I hear people say, oh my gosh, I keep hearing, my ancestors and all that. But to really hone in on that, the fact that Black people only got the right to vote in 1965, I'm like, please, that ain't even really ancestors, like way, way, way back. That's like your parents. that's literally like your grandparents. Like they probably still alive, you know, God willing. But if not, they were alive then when we got the right to vote. The fact is, it's not really that far removed. And I feel like people don't really realize, like, okay, you know, they say if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So if we're going to show that we're not caring about it and things like that, and we're not getting out to vote, then people think, oh, y'all don't want to vote? Let's start chipping away at your rights, right? And I feel like that often happens when we talk about voter suppression and all that. Why do you think we fight it so hard? Because it's the fact that we know what you're doing. We're watching you, right? Because a lot of us are out here voting. We are still exercising this right and trying to make sure that others in our country and in our communities are doing the same. So it's just really, you know, just changing the narrative. Like, yeah, it's your ancestors, but it's your parents. It's like your grandparents. It's not even like way, way back. That was a whole fight too. Let's not get it wrong and twisted. But it's like really helping people realize like, oh shoot, this is like right on our doorstep. We're not that far removed from not having that right. And that is like something that's like really, you know, hits home for some. So as we try to, you know, engage with, you know, especially younger voters, you know, people, they're like, okay, yeah, the old people talking, but it's like, no, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, and all of that, you know, not that long ago. So,
you know, one of the interesting things throughout these voter engagement activities throughout the years that I've done, and surprising, a little discouraging sometimes, but you know, you give them the history, you lay it down thick on them, you give them the burden of the legacy that they've been handed, you know, and sometimes even younger voters, it just doesn't resonate. It doesn't mean squat, you know, especially when you're trying to appeal to those voters that are going to have the low propensity. So encouragement to my fellow voter engagement people out there holding up the good fight. You know, a perspective change or even verbiage change I have found has been helpful, you know, because I know it can be daunting to get out there, man, trying to recruit them.
Right.
But I likened it to, look, election day is draft day, baby. You know, you trying to show up to the game and you didn't pick no players and then you upset when you lose. So come on, like you can't get mad when you come to court and then the judge that is you sitting in front of doesn't care a lick about you, doesn't care about your background. You just another statistic, jail, problem, taxpayer dollars. I did my job. That's a win for my book. So, you know, and the recruitment is a slow trickle sometimes, but I gotta tell you, that was one of my success stories. When you turn one of those people that say, I'm not gonna vote, it's useless. If you can just get just a handful of those, I tell you what, boy, it does the spirit good. It does the spirit good.
Right. I wanted to add to that. You have to meet people where they are, just like like in spirituality and in religion. You have to meet people where they are. And I know leader Stacey Abrams, her organization, Fair Fight, they have a brand new program which they have engaged Selena Gomez, Civics for the Culture, just really teaching young people just about those little things that we forgot. We learned it for the test, but then we forgot it and to implement it in real life. And I know a lot of people had a lot to say about the over-sexualized commercial, take your booty to the polls. But if you look at how strategic that particular ad was or PSA was, it got people talking, and it probably related to people who would have never even paid attention to exercising their right to vote. You don't know who that affects. So I think that instead of us always preaching, like, of course, we just said about our ancestors and who they died for, that speaks well for us. We're very educated. We're on top of things. We're speaking to ourselves, but we're not speaking to Shawty in the Trap, who is eligible, he's never been convicted, or he or she has never been, convicted but has the right to vote. And maybe that person, I'm not saying it's all the way right or agreeable to what my standards are, anything like that, but I feel like there is an effect, and we have to speak to people where they are. Take out something that directly affects them and say, hey, you can make a change by voting for this judge who actually agrees with some of the things that you agree with. Like really helping people to understand how their vote matters. And that's on each and every one of us as these educated Black folks who are in the community and in these amazing organizations. That's on us to be able to holler at these people and speak to them in their language to then affect change.
You hit it.
That's on us.
You hit it. Expungements and to your point of civics isn't taught in the school systems like it should be. So you hit it. And to your point of being able to meet people where they are, a conversation on how your record could be expunged. There's so many people out there that think that they cannot go, but having that conversation and saying, yes, you can. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Most definitely. And just even following up with that question, just talk to us a little bit more of like, what do you think, or what's your take on how do we help members of our community see the power in their vote? So yes, it's back to kind of what we started touching on, but like, what does that look like? How can we really, message it? So I like the draft, right? It makes sense. As an educator, I could definitely sell school system. I don't got kids yet, but I understand that determines my paycheck. That determines, the future, my future kids, like what that will look like as well, because progress is needed, right? So just thinking like, how do we really reach our people, outside of the simply saying, yeah, my ancestors fought for this, because we do know that's true. We do acknowledge it, but, for some, that doesn't hit right. Like Cameron said, some people just, it's not enough.
It slides right off, boy.
John said it well when she said, meet people where they are. We're in a state of emergency. And if people understand the state of emergency, that really we need to wake up, stop sleeping at the wheel, and respond, because it's a powerful thing. Meet people where they are, educate them to the point where they understand how powerful we truly are, how powerful we are. Conversations like this, dialogue, that just continue. It just doesn't stop. And I think using the platforms, when we think about the future and you're talking about young folks and social media, I think the more that it's drilled there and they see it and they see personalities that share the stories, it will help the future generation that missed it to understand the importance of it. And I think that we just have to continue doing what we're doing to keep educating people about the importance. We know that there are some people lying low that are, oh no, my vote doesn't count. That's your piece of power, man. You need to use it. That's your piece of power.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, one thing that at least my generation can do, or at least my age group, when I was in college, the very first election I voted in was for Obama. And that was monumental because we got we were like, oh, we with the Black president. And like, it was amazing. So for me, I think it's important that we use that kind of example to show, like, of course, there are people who are like, does it even matter if I vote? I'm one person. But clearly we did it then, and then we did it again back to back. So it's just going to show you, if you can give people real life examples, with someone that they can relate to, I think that definitely makes a difference.
For sure. Yeah. I think all of these are very spot on. Because the encouragement really is something that we need. And that's actually a fantastic pivot to the next question, because looking at all of these things that we're trying to do to make sure that to address voter apathy and keep those spirits up. So let's talk about the possibility of leadership administration not changing hands. Because that's a very real possibility. And then we're going to be back here again in the next 2 years in the midterm election. Then we got the presidential election. This very well may be an ongoing uphill battle, So let's play devil's advocate, and let's say that administration doesn't change hands, or you don't receive the leadership that you're advocating for. How can we keep pushing for progress? What are some things that we could do to see some changes, and what are the changes that you would like to see?
Ooh. That's a heavy. It's so heavy because we are also hopeful that, I can't say we. Many people that I know are very hopeful that things will change, but even if many of us get what we want. We still have to hold those folks that we elect. We have to hold them accountable. It does not end with the vote. Actually, the work, the real work, really starts after. It's kind of like after you become a member of an organization and everybody's like, well, the work starts now. It's
there you go.
like that. Like, what are you going to do to make sure that the promises that you made us during your campaign are fulfilled? And we have to continue to hold people accountable. How do we do that? Continue to protest. You know, the spirit of protest translates into participation and policy formation, and policy moves the needle. That is what we need to continue to do. And I think that even after that, we needed to further educate ourselves as citizens as to the power that we have after the vote is cast. I think a lot of people don't know what to do after we get the person that we want elected to be in that particular office, or the person that we don't like. I think that's when we're like, see, I told you my vote doesn't count. And then we become silent, and then we become angry until the next time there is a voting cycle. But we can't complain about the output if we're not there for the input. So the input starts with the ballot, and then teaching ourselves and educating ourselves and our fellow brothers and sisters, no matter where they fall on the socioeconomic or where they ladder, or where they fall. We have to educate ourselves on how we hold the politicians accountable. It does not stop when you leave the office or cast your leave the facility, or after you cast your absentee ballot. We have to hold politicians accountable. I mean, there's so many things that I want to change. My thing is, I have two daughters, 13 and 11. And when my daughter was 7 years old, my younger daughter was 7 years old, and I had to wake up when she woke up the night when Hillary Clinton was presumably in the lead, and I had to tell her that Donald Trump won. My daughter beat the bed and cried out loud as a 7-year-old. She was 7 years old. So these children know exactly what's happening and exactly what's going on. And my fear is that I have to tell her that at 11 the next morning on November the 4th. So I don't want that to happen, but I also know that these children are watching us. And if we do not do what we need to do, we are failing them. We are failing them. So let's all come together collectively, no matter what way you vote. Look at me being politically correct, but use it and also hold these people accountable, no matter who is in office.
And to the point of accountability is definitely after the ballot after you cast your ballot, we need to engage in our community. We need to be at city council. We need to be at school board. We need to be at county commissioners. And we also need to identify, as well as holding the politicians accountable, the ones that secure the vote. We also need to start identifying leaders to be in these seats. We need to really, really do our due diligence to start identifying people that say, I'll step up, I'll run. And the policies and the principles and the things that we believe in, that they are cultivated from out our community. People that have agendas that are going to be about our issues. No permanent enemies, no permanent friends, just permanent issues. And so I think that when we think about whatever the outcome may be on November the 3rd, the work, as Rashawn said, it starts there, that we really need to be at the table. We need to hold ourselves accountable. It's not time to be apathetic. It's time to be at all the meetings, the zoning meetings in our communities, be on the state capitol, become a lobbyist, run for office. We just really need engagement to continue. And that's when we'll really see things start shifting, is when we start aligning ourselves to be at the table and identifying people that represent some of the issues that go unheard. So I think shift change, do the work, identify folks that can represent holding our political leaders, policymakers, policy changers accountable for things that we want.
I would agree with all that. I see Wanda Cohen Clark left a comment and said, take a seat at the table and bring your chairs if you can't find a seat. 100%. You have to keep being engaged. You can't take your foot off the gas just because the election is over. No matter what happens, we still have these local elections. We still have the local officials. And that just means that we literally have a right as citizens to hold them accountable and hold them and make sure that we engage with them. So I would agree with that. We talked a little bit about things that we would want no matter who wins. Student loan relief would be perfect. More funding for our HBCUs, police reform. I just think there are a number of things that no matter who wins, that we could clean up in this country. So I am hopeful that this election goes totally different than the last one, me personally. So we'll just wait and see.
And I just wanted to add something really quickly. I alluded to the fact that I moderated an event the other night for the Village Market. And one of the panelists, Gary Chapman Jr., if you don't follow him on Instagram, do yourself a favor. The brother is just phenomenal. And he mentioned how the budgets that are set are moral documents that we need to make sure that our politicians stand by and stand up for. And we, again, as Jareen said, we have the power to make them accountable to the things that they promise, especially those particular budgets. So again, do yourself a favor. He's an amazing mind, intellect, and is really, really for the people and doing the right thing. So he was a great panelist, and I learned a lot from him that day.
Give his name again for the people.
Gary Chapman Jr.
All right.
All right, gonna have to follow.
Yes.
All right, drop it in the chat.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But, and you guys actually answered one of the audience questions as we were just talking, because it was really like, how are we going to advance our platform and our agenda to those who are elected on the day after, right? So it's not even like, we can't say it stops at election, because really thinking about how does it translate to all the days after, right? And thinking about how we, as we're encouraging people, yes, to get out and vote, but how are we going to really encourage them to build relationships with, the people that serve us? Like, we put them in office, right? And serve our interests and holding them accountable. So thank you all so much for bringing that up, because that was something that, people wanted to hear and know about.
Right,
like,
absolutely.
What you on that.
Sora Nichelle, really quickly, I'm sorry, it's Gary Chambers Jr. Chambers, I said Chapman, it's Gary Chambers, Gary Chambers, Chambers.
Wonderful. Everybody go follow. All right. But thank you guys so much for sharing that, just because that is something that I feel like we are really trying to increase voter turnout within our community, especially, but now it's like the work cannot stop there. And everyone listening, viewing, the same passion that we have in this moment, I feel like we need to now go to phase 2, right? So after election day, we have to now take the same amount of excitement and passion and remind people okay, cool, you did your job on that first day, you showed up, day 1. But now you actually have to continue this work. I think that's a narrative that isn't often discussed or talked about, right? It's register to vote, go vote, but then what? And that's kind of something that in our community, we also have to continue to work and combat to get people excited and continue to keep them excited. So thanks for sharing. And that is the perfect segue to our next question, which is, how do you keep pushing forward, keep up the fight, even when the outcome isn't what you wanted, such as in 2016 or 18, if that outcome isn't what you wanted, right? So thinking about what are some ways, or what do you think the narrative can be at this point if it isn't what you wanted? How do we keep pushing forward as a community?
I think we kind of answered that in the last one, on the last question, but again, we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our children, to continue to make sure that we see the world that we want to see. These last 4 years have been deplorable. I mean, it's just been, I have never seen in my adult life, in any of our adult lives, seen anything like what we've seen. Just the division in our country, the continued rhetoric, the continued negative rhetoric, and the fact that we get to see white male privilege on display every single moment of the day. Because and under our current leadership, had the prior leadership done anything close, remotely close to any one thing that he has done, it would be an entirely different situation or entirely different outcome. We wouldn't have had 8 years of who we saw and the leadership that we saw in Barack Obama. The irony that, a lot of people, we go back to the apathy, we go back to people saying that they don't like, the irony only comes into play when the likability factor only comes into play when it's a Barack Obama or a Kamala Harris or a female. You gotta like somebody. When we've been not forced, but we've only had people that we can only say, oh, well, I like this about them. And now we have to have, now you see all of this stuff on social media and the news that you gotta, oh, well, she's not likable, or we don't like, listen. My thing is, let's do what we need to do to change what we need to change, to get what we wanna get for a better America, for not only ourselves, but the children that we are raising. If you're not a parent, the children that we are encouraging, the children that we are teaching. And that's all I have to say about that.
I'd like to put a filter on that. That was to kind of focus, because exactly to add on top of that, let's talk about young Black voters, because that's a question that we got from one of the audience members too. So, that's the growing demographic that's really going to have an increasing voice in the shaping of this country. How do we get our young Black individuals, in addition to the change of office and keeping up the encouragement and the fight, focusing on the young Black individuals, how do we get them involved? How do we get them to have that equity in the process?
I would say that I think one of the things that we should do for our future is help create policymakers in these young people. I think young people need to understand the process is possible. I think for so long, we complain and they say, but I think if we create a world where the young future sees themselves being the change agents, speaking truth to power, they have the ability to change the future and to help cultivate them in their leadership to be what we need to see the world as they would see it. I think that that's an area that people get caught up on. Oh, my background, and I can't run for office, and I can't do this, and I'm too honest, and they're corrupt. Until we start shifting our mindset about the possibilities of who we are and what we can do, and we can have that seat at the table, that we can run for offices, local positions, start from small school board, not even smaller, but school board to county commission. When we start cultivating young people to see that as an opportunity that they need to include in their plight of life and a better future, I think that they'll see the possibilities are endless, that you can actually influence the way the world is seen as a policymaker, a change agent.
I like that. We might need to get t-shirts that say change agent.
Change agent.
Man, that's big. I think a key word that you just said there was influence. The young people, the people, my people, allegedly, I'm not that young, but the young people, we have this thing with influencer culture. We are guided by that. So one thing I will say that I have seen this election that I think is very effective is the way that these politicians have been using influencers, have been using social media. It's a new day. When you can wake up, go on your phone that you're addicted to, go on the Shade Room and see Barack Obama. At this point, it's a new day. It's a new dawn. They're saying, well, this is where the young people are. These people have 21 million followers. We can't afford to ignore it. It doesn't matter how it's dressed up. It doesn't matter how it's looked. You can say it's toxic culture. You can say it's abrasive. You can say whatever you want. But I think it is key, and I really appreciate seeing that. Even Michelle Obama with her When We Vote initiative, she has been in touch with all of the social media sites, all of the websites, it doesn't matter what people are reporting on, you're probably gonna see Michelle Obama talking about the importance of voting there. And so that is something I think is key for young voters. It's really what Rashawn Ali said about meeting people where they are. We are here. We are on the cell phone. So if that's what it takes, I don't care if it's not as dignified as it used to be. If this is where everyone is everyone is scrolling, then I think it is key that they utilize that. And I think they've been doing a good job of that with this election.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. Facebook is news, y'all. Like, it's no longer just pictures. You can literally go on there and get real information. Like, as well, because of so many, even news sources using all these outlets. So it's like, really, that was a great point. Definitely. You got to meet people in their phones, like literally. But we do have another question, and just more like about your personal like journey throughout this election season and things like that. Can each of you tell us kind of like what type of voter engagement activities you are involved in? It could be unofficial, official. I know you guys kind of touched on like using your platform. Is there any specifics maybe to share on that?
I'll just start really quickly. Outside of my Rashawn Ali page, where I, encourage people to exercise their right to vote, but I do have, what you mentioned in my bio, I have a podcast called the Cool Sora Podcast. So we're starting kind of an initiative, Cool Source for Kamala, and just really trying to reach people where they are. And even though, we obviously have to be very careful because all of our organizations, as far as the D9, are nonprofit, to not, make sure that we are, endorsing one particular person or one particular candidate, but just coming together as a
nonpartisan.
Yeah, there we go. That's the word. Endorsing it, and we're all nonpartisan. So we are just coming together as a group, and I think that you can find so many different subsets of people who are kind of have one thing in common, and you just kind of group them together and go big. So that is what I am doing. I am personally doing, just continuing to use whatever I have at the touch of my fingers, alluding to what Danny said. Like, social media is really everything. Literally, as soon as you scroll, you see something about the election. And I think each and every person is doing their part, no matter who they're voting for. They're just encouraging everyone to do the same. So me personally, I'm using not just Rashawn Ali as a platform, but all of my platforms to continue to just encourage people to do the right thing.
And what I'll say for the NAACP, when I started, we are 24/7, 365 days of the year, so it won't stop. We will always be open every election cycle from 7 in the morning to 7 p.m. always. Irregardless to what election it is, we're going to always be open. We do voter registration, call banking. We're doing canvassing. One thing we're really excited with the state of Georgia, metro branches throughout, we're doing Party to the Polls at the Cobb County Civic Center parking lot on October the 24th from 12 to 4. So we kind of tried to find a location where we're doing some live remotes out there. Just want to encourage people, because we know the 24th of October is the last day that you can vote on a Saturday. So we're trying to capture the interest of folks by being out in the Civic Center parking lot, encouraging people to drive by, honk their horns, stop. We think any information. We do election protection. You can call our branch office if anybody has any concerns or have any problems. We have poll watchers as well. We are just continually doing our civic engagement, making sure as a nonpartisan organization, we don't care who you vote for, just as long as you vote. Everybody's vote matters. We're giving rides to the polls as well. And the advocacy will always continue, even after this election.
So for me, I talked about it a little bit briefly, but Michelle Obama's When We Vote initiative, We have a good relationship with them. They send us emails every time they have something that they would like to be shared. We actively post and reshare that. Even the Biden-Harris team, they have been in contact. So we actually have a database of stories that we have done surrounding them. So for me, a lot of it is just paying attention to what gets put into the inbox, and making sure that we are keeping people informed. So every debate, we're talking about that. Anytime someone who is the president right now says something crazy, we're talking about that. So we are just doing our job to keep people engaged and actively putting that on people's timelines. That's my point.
That's great. Fantastic. That's great. Well, panelists, that is great activity. I mean, that is definitely sparking some creativity, some things that the individuals can be doing in their networks and in their neighborhoods. We also would like to give our audience an opportunity to get in on the fun. Like we said at the beginning of the webinar, we do have an activity for you guys, okay? We have a takeaway. So what we would like to do, we would like to spend the last 10 minutes. This is audience participation time, okay? So what we would like for you all to do is come up with some names, right? And I believe we have our activity sheet that we could get you guys to spark some ideas as far as names. So what we're going to do is we're going to be thinking of essentially 4 categories of names. I would like for everyone to take the last 10 minutes to think about, or excuse me, of the last 10 minutes, we're going to think about, for the first 5 minutes of that 10, you're going to think about names, you're going to think about friends, think about some friends. We're going to shoot for 20, but we want you to reach out to at least 10 individuals, okay? And we're going to drop a text message in the chat. You should have a text that was sent into the chat. If you take a look, the text reads, "Hey, I'm reaching out because I am helping people in my circle navigate through the election process. Have you made a plan to cast your vote in 2020 election? Voting has already started and your last chance to vote is November 3rd. Here are some helpful resources. You can find your voter precinct or polling place, and there's a link here. You can request a mail-in ballot or find a ballot drop box. Also, you have register to vote. Even though it is too late to register to participate in the 2020 election, as our panelists have pointed out, this is an ongoing process. So if you miss this one, guess what? We've got another one in the next 2 years, and then 2 years after that, and then after that. You know, the country's not going to be its ideal position in just one election cycle. So we need you to stay engaged, and be a part of the process. So go ahead, copy and paste this text message. Get ready to copy and paste. And let's go ahead and take the next, I guess, 4 minutes now. I'll shut my mouth. All right. And we're going to think about friends, family, classmates, and church members. Jot those names down really quick. And then we'll come back after about 4 minutes and we'll move on to our next part of the activity.
And also, if you haven't yet, take the quick survey because we're going to share the responses of everyone that's attending. So it's in the chat. Please just fill out the Google form. You could just click it real quick, just to poll and see how are we doing as audience, as panelists, as everyone here tonight. All right, you have about 2 more minutes, really a minute and a half. Get it done. Just write down some names that you're like, I should check on them just to be sure. Just jot those names down, think about it, and reach out. All right, so as
All
we're
right.
wrapping up, just a quick question for you, Cameron. We got a question from the audience on the spot, and they want to know, just give us a quick synopsis of what are the Cobb Alphas up to as we are really engaging voters. So, the panelists answered, so you could go, then, I'll share too. But that will just give y'all extra time, wrap up, send your messages. But yeah, just give us a little bit about what are you guys up to?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we actually are in the process of conducting phone banks. So this very similar exercise that you're doing, we're actually engaging our entire base. As you know, Alpha Phi Alpha Incorporated is a very large organization. So we're galvanizing our entire base and we're using all of our brothers as ambassadors. So if you know an Alpha, go and give him a tap. He'll probably help you out. So with that phone bank, we're looking to increase Black men participation in the election process by 20%. So we've taken more of a calculated approach. We've gone by county and we've gone by districts. And we have the quantitative amount of men that we need to engage to be new voters. And we've just centered activities around it. So a big part of that has been social media, things like the phone bank, forums like this, and also just getting out and touching in our circles. I'll tell you one thing, the challenge has been COVID. Alphas, we're known to be very social individuals. We like to get out and engage in our communities, and COVID has just kind of put some form of hindrance, but we've been able to get out there and continue to push to get folks involved. Also, we've got some poll activity going on. We volunteer at polls as well. As we know, as some of you know, who have already voted, those lines are long. Just encouraging people to stay in line, providing bottles of water. We now have chapters all over the city, providing that kind of support and encouragement at the polls, as well as just being a presence in the community as well, just being vocal. Like we discussed in the panel today, a big part of this is, keeping this top of mind. Don't take your power for granted. And registration. Our engagement in voter participation has been going on since 2016. So we've been doing voter registration. We've been in barbershops. We've been in beauty salons. We've been walking through streets. We've had the pleasure of working with the NAACP. I'm a Cobb Alpha, so this is not our first crossing. But it's a lot of activity. And so if there are any brothers that are looking to get involved in it, the fight is always is afoot. So we would love to have you join.
Wow, thank you for sharing. So audience members, now you know what they're up to. If you're a young man, want to get plugged in, help out, reach out to your people, send these text messages. But also just sharing a little bit about what the Rho Zeta Omega chapter is up to. So similar to how you guys are phone banking, we are doing text banking, partnering with a lot of organizations, i.e. you all, but also like with the League of Women Voters, with NAACP, with anyone in these streets that need our support. We are out here trying to partner with you and support in those efforts, but also doing a lot of voter education, right? So just really, how do you cast your ballot in the safest way possible? How can you really get to the polls? How can you, all of that, any questions, answering them, being here as a resource in the community, and having a lot of forums, Zoom parties, trying to build up the hype around getting out and vote. So just like now, please, definitely, if you need our assistance or our help, we are here as community partners, and we are reaching out to voters, and we're trying to meet them where they are, kind of like what was said tonight. So even we had a voter engagement week where we reached 23,000 voters through text banking, 23,000 throughout the state of Georgia, as well as, just different forums, partnering with different Metro Atlanta organizations as well. So that is exciting. If you guys have questions, please, let us know. We're here to answer before we wrap this up. But thank you all also for participating in our texting to your circles. So. All right, and there is someone that has their hand raised. Wanda Cohen-Clark. Any last?
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to raise my hand, but this is a great session. I am thoroughly enjoying it, but I do have to drop off, but I apologize. I did not raise my hand. I didn't mean to if I did.
Just in case
Thank you.
Worries.
We are here for you. But yes, just remember everybody, early voting started already. And you know what, as we're on this topic, hit the spots that might not have as long as of a wait. So like Riverside Epicenter, go there. If you're in Fulton, hit the State Farm Arena. You could be in and out, free parking. Do what you got to do. Make sure, check the wait time before getting out. But you know what? Wherever you go, bring a folding chair just in case, a snack, some water, dress comfortably. All right. Make sure you don't got to get back to work in an hour, because if anything happens, stay your butt in the line, please. We need you to do your part. So yeah. And
well, it's been a pleasure, panelists, an absolute pleasure. The discussion has been great. Hopefully this continues, because we definitely need it. We know this is an ongoing thing. Hopefully we'll have each of you back on the next round to keep up the spirit and keep everyone engaged. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. It's been an absolute pleasure, and everybody stay engaged, and we'll talk to you soon.
We will real soon, because you know what? November 4th, the work continues. So we look forward to seeing you all in the struggle and the fight and whatever you want to call it. We will be out here even beyond election day. So please do your part, but we look forward to still engaging with you all afterwards as well. And just sharing the survey results with you real quick. Anyone that filled out the survey, based on those anonymous questions, just a little poll, 29 responses. Have you already voted in the general election? Ooh, it's kind of like half and half. All right. So we have 48.3% yeses, 51.7% no's as of yet, right? Because when asked if you have not voted early, do you plan to vote? Most people said yes. And some say not applicable because they already voted. See that? So we all, 100% of us, are going to make it at one point in time or another before November 3rd. And last, next two questions. What method did you use or plan to use to vote? A lot of people are doing early voting. And yeah, this has been historic levels of early voting, which is super exciting, because that just shows that we're really trying to get this done and not waiting till the last minute. Shout out to us. But then there's also a large percent that are doing absentee ballot. Still shout out to us, because we're not about to play around with coronavirus. So you know what? We can do that too. Just make sure you get it done once again. And then if you have not, do not plan. Everybody said not applicable, because guess what? We're all showing up to do our part. So thank you all so much for taking the survey. Make sure you get to the polls. Half of us haven't yet. Get your ballot in, drop boxes. They're all over, all throughout the state. Every county has drop boxes. So please make sure you find one or take advantage of early voting. And on Saturday, The 24th, that is throughout the entire state of Georgia, a mandatory Saturday availability and offering in all counties. So please make sure you also, if you can't make it during the work week, we understand, get your money, but still get to the polls, all right? So Saturday, the 24th is also an option to you. And the very last opportunity is November 3rd, of course. But thank you all so much for joining us. It was a pleasure moderating here with our amazing panelists. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we look forward to keeping the conversation going beyond Election Day also.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Having us. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great night.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.